You know what time it is here. It's Sunday morning. It's a SportsGrid Network series, XM Channel 159. It's pro baseball today. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Tom Vecchio. And you know what we do every single Sunday, 2 hours, 10 a.m. Eastern to 12 p.m. We are ready to rock and roll every single game on the Major League Baseball betting card today. We will hit, along with all of the hottest topics, a monster week this past week. Why? Because we had the trade deadline, which we did see some fireworks here. Bullpens really exploded this week on that Thursday 6 p.m. deadline. And away we go into the weekend, Tom. A lot of stuff to get to. The energy, the vibes, always high as usual. It's fun to be with you again this Sunday.
Yeah, we have certainly a lot to get to. The heels of the trade deadline. We have to go through all that as the dust is settled. We have a special baseball game last night that got delayed into today. We have another baseball game starting at 11:30 today. But besides all of that, we have to look at the MVP market because Aaron Judge is still hurt. Cal Raleigh is hot on his heels. And then we have to get to some of the odds for the divisions and the World Series. I'm ready to go. There were a ton of names traded back and forth between different teams. We got to jump in.
No, we certainly do. And Tom, by the way, you take a look at, because it is a handicapping show that we do. We like to provide information to the people. And I got to tell you, it's always tough, like heading into the All-Star break, coming out of the All-Star break, right up to the trade deadline, because the one thing you want from your baseball team or your baseball player, whatever you're handicapping and betting on, is you want that clean slate, which means you know that player and that team is focused on tonight's action. We didn't have that for a couple days. Like, you had teams and players not knowing if they were coming or staying, going, and whatever was going to take place. How did you handle this past week? Because I know a lot of people out there seeing the picks out there and some of the games ending up. Boy, it was a mixed mash every single night, and I can't believe that happened. But now it looks like we're charted for much calmer waters now.
Yeah, you can always look at the pitcher unders, which is something that I've always been adamant about. Pitcher under, outs, strikeout, outs recorded, strikeouts, whatever it might be. If you know they're going to be traded, obviously teams want to protect their assets. You can do the same with hitters. You know, Randall Grichuk last week, he got pulled mid-game when he was traded from the Diamondbacks to the Royals. So you could take the under on his hits. You know, obviously books different offer, different things. So you could certainly look there. There was a part of me that was saying, okay, once we know that teams are trading away, especially bullpen arms, do we want to be then trusting teams just in the first five because their bullpens are weaker? And then vice versa, do we actually want to be trusting teams in full games instead of first fives because their bullpens are now stronger? So like the Mets made massive additions to their bullpen. So instead of going to their first five, which you could do in certain spots, do we just take them full game now because we know their bullpen is absolutely awesome?
Yeah, there will be winners and losers. We just don't know how long it's going to take to find those out. But some of these guys paying immediate dividends. But if we do start with the San Diego Padres, you want to talk about bringing the heat, man. This was already one of the best bullpens in baseball. Adds Mason Miller. And also, you know me, Tom. Like, I've been saying, boy, give me some bats in that, Padres lineup. They pick up Laureano and also O'Hearn. I love what the Padres are doing. They really are trying to chase down the Dodgers.
They really are. And at this point, I talked about it with you the other day on the early on Friday night. I think the play to make in the Padres at this point is to win the NL. And, it's based on where their odds are right now because, the top row is going to see the Dodgers, we're going to see the Mets, the Phillies, the Cubs, and now the Brewers are sneaking up. And obviously all those teams aren't going to be making the NLCS. So when you make high profile additions like a Mason Miller, and then you add depth to the lineup, that was already pretty solid up top, but you had the bottom that's that much better with Ryan O'Hearn and Laureano. Like, we now have a well-rounded lineup on top of a great pitching staff. Michael King is expected to start making his rehab starts. So you have him plus Pivetta plus Dylan Cease. Darvish is back. You have the frontline pitching, the depth of the lineup, and now a great bullpen. You have it all.
I really like it. Like, I do. Like, sometimes I get caught up in the Padres because of what they can be, and we don't know if that potential is going to be realized onto a Major League Baseball diamond, but what they added at the deadline, nobody in the right mind, Tom, is going to oh, man, I don't like what the Padres did. It just wasn't enough. They were phenomenal at the deadline. We'll see if it pays off in the second part of this Major League Baseball season. And the one thing I do agree with, Tom, like, closers, sometimes you got to catch lightning in a bottle. It's very rare, as I pointed out this past week, like, you get Mariano Rivera. He's going to be great for 15 years. It's usually 2, 3, 4 years, top of that heap. And for bad baseball teams, as we just talked about the A's trading Mason Miller, there's no point in Mason Miller closing games out for you this year or next year. You're not trying to win, which also goes for the Philadelphia Phillies as they pick up Duran here from the Twins. What was the point of the Minnesota Twins actually keeping anything out there in the scope of, hey, let's close games out? They move him to the Phillies, and he pays off right away. First night in Philadelphia, gets a save against the Detroit Tigers. I love the fact that teams going all in always get those top closers at the end. The Padres and the Phillies did that.
Yeah, they really did. The Twins sold off not just during,
Everything.
so many players, and their franchise is up to be sold at this point now because they're just going through a disaster of a season and disaster of a few years. So they traded away a ton of players. Their lineup is extremely weak overall. But seeing top flight teams pick up those high leverage closers is absolutely what we want to see. The Mets did it, the Phillies did it, the Padres did it, the Yankees did it. Those are the teams that we expect to see when it comes to late October. So it's great to see that address the needs that they have overall. And it's really shaping up to be a fantastic end to the season. And it is good for the teams, the Twins and the A's, to at least operate rationally. Like, they know they're not in to win. You might as well get the assets back from those teams and get the prospects like Mick Abel going to the Twins. Like, he's a starting pitcher that they will need moving down the line, exactly. I should say.
Yeah, like guys like Nick Kurtz, right? You're not going to move that guy because he's going to be a cornerstone of your franchise for a decade. But a closer, there's no point in having a closer. You're not going to develop a closer that's already at the top of the market and say, hey, man, we're really going to use you the next 3 years. It makes no sense. So I do like what both of those teams did, just sort of rebuild. And you're right about the Twins. I mean, that was an absolute fire sale at the deadline here. We'll see what they continue to do in the offseason, but they certainly are paring down their payroll, no doubt about it. Team not paring down their payroll. Love the move for the Mariners. And Tom, for the first time in a long time, like, I understand the Mariners started to hit this year, right? Cal Raleigh's been fantastic. A couple of those guys stepping back up. But the fact that they went out and got Eugenio Suarez, where now you look at the Mariners, even though they play in such a great pitcher's ballpark, you can take them on a night-to-night basis and not just say, I hope I get a lot of strikeouts from the young pitchers and they score 3 runs. This team can explode in the right environment. Now, look at that lineup here. I love what I see out of the Mariners.
Yeah, really, top to bottom, it's so much better. And it speaks to, like, okay, you had 2 players to a lineup. Like, oh, what does that do? 2 players. Like, how does that? And you're like, well, when you have so many of the hitters in a lineup that aren't great overall, when you add a Naylor and you add a Suarez, who are lefties and right, lefty and righty specifically, I like the fact that they're different. On top of J.P. Crawford, who gets on base, on top of Cal Raleigh, who's having an unbelievable season. We obviously have J-Rod in there, which is fantastic to see. And then you have a well-rounded lineup that brings you just more depth. Like, I always thought that, like, okay, you could just pitch around J-Rod and Cal Raleigh because the bottom portion of the lineup really wasn't that good. And the Mariners, if they scratch across 3 runs, their pitching staff will get it done and win games. Now you just add that lineup drops down just a few more where there's more dangerous hitters. On top of the pitching staff, this is a team you have to watch out for. And in a 3-game series, Donnie, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Brian Wu, that's a pretty good starting rotation to have on top of this lineup.
I like it, man. I'm excited. Again, if you say it, I'm always going to be a Phillies fan. You're always going to be a Yankees fan. But some of those other teams, like, oh, you know what? I'm really feeling the Mariners. I'm really feeling the San Diego Padres. That's now certainly taking a top flight step here to go forward and maybe even win a World Series, or at least win a pennant at that point here. The Yankees, I know your squad out here making moves in the bullpen. Never a doubt Bednar, one of the best on the market here for the relievers. The Yankees pick him up as they await Aaron Judge and try to track down those Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, a couple additions to the bullpen for them, getting Bednar, Bird, Duvall. Wasn't the greatest start for them the other night on Friday when they're giving up a lot of runs, but that's just, it's going to happen in any single game, whether they've been on team for a day or a week or a year, doesn't really matter. They're going to be giving up runs, but it is good to see them go out and make the additions where they were struggling. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest start over the past few games. They need to get right the ship, and they really got to chase down the Blue Jays and then or secure their wild card spot to have home field advantage.
Yeah, struggling a bit with the Marlins right now. Might struggle even a little bit more. They got a solid pitcher they're going up against today. But if we just look at the way the Yankees are set up, there's no faults. There's no excuses for them. If you get Aaron Judge back, and let's just say he's healthy enough to be at that MVP level, there are no excuses on a day-to-day basis. That lineup should be able to hit. You should have good enough starting pitching. And now that bullpen has been fortified. More trade deadline deals coming up next. Let's review it right here on Pro Baseball Today.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's In-Game Live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
And we are live on Pro Baseball Today. It's what we do each and every Sunday right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's Tom and Donnie breaking down all the hottest topics and the game breakdowns. When we talk about hottest topics, we give it to you live here. Jacob Mizorowski just placed on the 15-day IL with a tibia contusion. He was due to start today against the Washington Nationals. Any thoughts on that, Tom? Information coming late here on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, we're reacting to this live. So, this game is starting at 1:36. So instant reaction is not the worst news. Like, it's a tibia issue for him. It's, in his leg, it's not an arm or an elbow or shoulder issue. So, like, best case scenario, he goes on the IL, he comes back, he's perfectly fine. He could probably do some type of throwing program even when he's on the IL, because it's not an arm or an elbow issue. And then he comes back, and what we're talking about, mid-August at that point, and then he gets a couple more starts and they're ready for postseason. So right now, I would say probably not an issue long-term. It obviously changes the lines of what we're going to see today. I haven't seen the lines reopen, at least on the FanDuel Sportsbook. They're locked right now. So not an issue right now. As long as he comes back and he still has that plant leg and he's still strong with that, probably no worries for the Brewers right now.
Yeah, always going to keep it safe. There's no reason to make that injury any worse than it is. If he needs a week off, so be it here. Rest that arm up here. He'll be ready to go in the late months of August here, and certainly in September. Let's also get back to the trade deadline market here, because the Mets did make some moves, which included fortifying their bullpen, which a lot of good baseball teams did, but also welcoming Cedric Mullins to Queens here to sort of beef up that outfield. Yesterday, they put on a show there, scored a lot of runs for the New York Metropolitans, back in first place over the Philadelphia Phillies. Mullins to Queens.
Yeah, good spot for him to land overall again, and good moves by the Orioles to just move players between O'Hearn, Lariano, and now Mullins moving them out. Yeah. This is what the Mets needed. They needed a little bit more in their lineup. Like, the bottom portion of the lineup really wasn't great overall, and then of course bringing in the bullpen help really sets them up for just obviously a two-team race as they have been all season with the Phillies. And I think it really, really comes down to winning the division for either of these teams. You do not want to play in that extra wild card game and theoretically have to go through the Padres, the Cubs, the Brewers, two of those three teams just to get to the NLCS to assume to play the Dodgers. Like, you do not want to have that extra series under your belt.
By the way, it is so smart now to beef up that bullpen because, talking about it a few times this week on the early line, Tom, it's like, you know what? We even see bullpen starts in the World Series now. Like, that's the new fashion. You can't have enough arms coming out in high leverage situations to handle quality batters. The Mets pick up players. Obviously, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Padres. We'll talk about a few more coming up. But one of the interesting surprises was they always say, Tom, you can never go home. Oh, yeah, you can. Carlos Correa takes the money, goes with the Twins, now returns back to the Astros. The Twins picking up a good chunk of that contract. A lot of injuries here for the Astros. Hopefully, Carlos Correa can step right in and fill that third base void that Isaac Paredes now down for the season.
Yeah, good move, again, all around. He wanted to leave. The Twins were willing to move him. They were willing to eat the contract. They were willing to get players back. And, he wants to go there, but also credit to him, he's willing to change positions, go to third base. Now, Jeremy Pena did leave yesterday's game early, if I remember correctly. He's actually not in there today. The Astros starting lineup, which game starts in about an hour and 20 minutes. So good on him to move positions. He knows that he has a chance to win again, in his let's call it his home team. Like, that's his team. He will always be a Houston Astro. He's never going to be a Minnesota Twin. So good on him. Astros made the right move, and they had so many injuries that they had to address certain things, and they did between him and getting Sanchez as well.
Yep, absolutely. Need more bats in that lineup. Maybe Alvarez comes back, but I know he had a few setbacks already. That team is a really good team and used to making deep postseason runs. Correa coming back, no surprise to making deep runs there with the Astros. We'll see if they do it this year. We talked about the Padres on the back end of that bullpen, maybe the best in Major League Baseball, but added a couple more bats at the deadline, which I wanted to see. There's a lot of talk, Tom, too. They wanted Stephen Kwan for the Guardians. They settled on a couple other bats, and I can't complain. If that 1 through 9 is healthy, it looks really good all the way through.
It looks really good. Kwan would have been an awesome addition at the top of the lineup. Kwan and Luis Arraez, those guys always get on base. And then you follow them up with Tatis and Machado, and you throw in Jackson Merrill, Cronenworth, whatever it might be. That would be a very well-rounded lineup. I was a little bit more interested in the fact that they were potentially shopping Dylan Cease, which really did make sense to me to have a frontline starter. I know he certainly has his issues with the walks and the home runs. We know that. But again, having a pitch that can give you 7-8 strikeouts over 6 innings in the postseason is something that you always want. It's also good to see Kwan stay in Cleveland. I know he wanted to stay there. At least that's what the report said. But the Padres making good moves overall to bolster their lineup with the additions that they got. And of course, that bullpen still looks fantastic.
Yeah, and also we were talking about the Padres going okay, we're going to make some of these moves. We'll get rid of Suarez and Cease. I'm no, don't make those moves and then get rid of those guys. They ended up keeping them. Reminiscent from me in the early 2010s, the Philadelphia Phillies and Cliff Lee. They pick up Roy Halladay, but the same day, Cliff Lee to Seattle. I'm what are we actually doing here? Now, he came back and certainly played a part of the 4 aces on that run for the Phillies that had a couple good years, but it makes no sense to say we're going to pick up legitimate talent but trade away legitimate talent. No, you're either all in or you can be all out in that time. But it looks like the Padres certainly at this point are all in. If we take a look at our own network here, the SportsGrid Network, Craig Mish, he broke some information on Sandy Alcantara and the Miami Marlins. He's staying with the Marlins. They're playing really good baseball right now. But again, the future of the Marlins, I never understand what they're doing. Maybe, Tom, is if they want to showcase Alcantara down the stretch that he's fully healthy and you get a better package over the offseason. But keeping Alcantara to say, hey, we might make a playoff run, stop it, stop.
Yeah, it really comes down to what they could have, we may never know this answer. What was the offer on the table for him now compared to if they move him in December, at the winter meetings and they move him there, what would that package end up being and what is the differential? Because if you, there weren't a lot of great starting pitchers traded and there weren't a lot of great starting pitchers available. He was maybe one of the best available. So if you could have gotten an awesome deal for him, but you're trying to hold on because you want to make a run, and then you take a lesser deal in December, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, well, I wonder what the packages were coming back to, because if you were saying a year and a half ago, right, it's hey, you know what? We're going to get Sandy Alcantara, the Cy Young type pitcher quality. We just haven't seen that yet this year. So maybe we didn't know if we got enough here. We have him under control. If he pitches next 4 to 5 starts and they're really good, we might even shut him down in the late September and say, great, we're going to build a market in the off season, and then we'll try to get after it here in that trade market before spring training actually opens up. But the trade deadline, Tom, was fun. And as we talked about, once the deadline is here, you have the haves and the have-nots now in Major League Baseball. You are going to see those taxes on those favorites that were in the month of April, May, and June, minus 150, minus 160. Yeah, they're minus 180, minus 190, and even higher now, because you understand these teams are fortified looking for playoff runs, while the other teams just might be checking in on some pitchers. Hey, let's see how he does here. Let's see how this hitter does in the 3-hole. Let's see a new closer. That's the last thing. When you have an underdog price that you want to pay, oh, it's heartbreaking. Oh, we're just going to try a double-A closer today. Amazing stuff. Pro Baseball Today, Tommy and Donnie. We'll be back right after this.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then, just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Over a full season, is he going to be Mike Piazza? No, of course not. But I think he's going to be a guy who can help your team here. My only problem really with Alvarez is this, as Craig and I have talked about so many times, catcher is deep. If you're in a two-catcher league, by the way, please, for the love of God, I never understood why anybody plays in two-catcher leagues. But in a one-catcher league, who's the catcher you're dropping?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Right back out of here on a Sunday morning. It's pro baseball today on the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. It's Tom Vecchio. It's Donnie Rightside here. And by the way, the pitching change today looks like Henderson is going to be in for Mizorowski, where he broke that news in the segment previous. We'll handicap every game on the card coming up shortly here. So make sure we get those news and notes and see when those lines open back up and see the difference that it makes in the handicap here. Hint, hint. You boy got a pretty good price here, apparently, on those Washington Nationals. But let's play it out here, Tom, because the MVP awards, they'll eventually be giving out here, and we have had some wild swings in the MVP market. Just last week, we were seeing Cal Raleigh at a minus 125 price as the favorite to win AL MVP. Aaron Judge hasn't played in roughly a week here. He's now the favorite at a minus 210. Is it just the expectations that maybe the injury wasn't that bad to Aaron Judge, and B, Cal Raleigh didn't hit 19 home runs while Judge was out? Is it that simple?
I really think it is. Just looking back at his game log, since the news, since Monday, Cal Raleigh has one home run. It's that simple. Like, he has one home run. Now, if he was on this pace, we were seeing them every other day or 3 over 4 game stretch, I believe the numbers would be where they probably were. Cal Raleigh minus 125, minus 130, Aaron Judge minus 110. It is what it is. But if it really comes down to once Aaron Judge comes back, because if you believe that he comes back and he's 75%, of where he was, I still think Aaron Judge wins it. And what I said about, this whole situation as soon as Aaron Judge went on the IL is that, Cal Raleigh's batting 258. Aaron Judge is going to bat 330 this season. Yes, Cal Raleigh may end up with more home runs and or more RBIs, but Aaron Judge has every other stat, WAR, WOBA, WRC+, batting average. Like, no matter what you want to look at, outside of home runs and RBIs, everything else in the favor for Aaron Judge. It's really that simple.
Yeah, it is that simple. In the National League, it looks like Shohei Ohtani here, roughly about a minus 900 favorite here to win over Pete Crow Armstrong. He's a plus 950. Kyle Schwarber at 12-1 price, man at 40-1. So it looks like at least there's 3 guys with legitimate threats to Ohtani. But once again, I'll say this every single week, every show I do right here on the SportsGrid Network, nobody's beating Ohtani. It's Pete Crow Armstrong needs to hit 70 home runs. That's the only way Ohtani gets beat in this MVP race. That's it for me, Tom. Or again, an extended injury that keeps him out 30 days.
Right. And there actually was a scare of that on, Tuesday or Wednesday night when Ohtani left his start early when they were in Cincinnati. And that was just due to, they said it was lower body fatigue. It wasn't an arm issue. It wasn't anything. And at that point, the market actually changed pretty dramatically. PCA was up at 8.5 or 9-1, whatever it is. It wasn't this price at 950. It actually dropped to 5-1 because, okay, if Ohtani were to theoretically miss 2 months of the season, PCA or Schwarber would be in a spot to win. Now, obviously, they said Ohtani's fine, just fatigue rather than the actual injury, so the odds are back where they are. But Ohtani's going to win this award. Donnie, we've been talking about this for months. We know what's going to happen.
No doubt about it. Let's take a look at some of these, these updates for the specific American League and also National League divisions here. If we look at the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays here still hold a 4-game lead over not only the New York Yankees now. Did you know the Red Sox were that second-place team? So the Yankees theoretically entering into today in third place. Why? The Red Sox have won 4 games in a row. The Yankees have lost 2 games in a row to the Marlins here. Are we believing that the Red Sox here can make a run in the second half here, Tom?
I would say a run, a very firm run for the wild card, not a run for the division. Like, they're in a great spot for the wild card right now. The pitching staff is still an issue for me overall. Walker Buehler looks okay at best. Giolito's on the mound today. We'll get the results, obviously. It is what it is, at the end of the day. But their frontline pitching staff isn't amazing. Their bullpen and their hitting are much better. But that pitching staff I think, is going to be the thing that holds them back from truly going deep and or making a push for the division.
Making a push for the division in the Central. It's the Detroit Tigers. Still an 8-game lead, but how about this? The Cleveland Guardians are now won 4 games in a row. The Tigers have won only 1 game in a row, which was yesterday. If the Phillies can knock off the Tigers tonight and the Guardians win again, that'll lower that to a touchdown in the marketplace, Tom. Nobody's catching the Tigers, though, right? Like, even if it does limit to 7, I just can't see the Dodgers getting upended by the Guardians, the Royals, or the Twins. No way. I don't see it.
No one's going to be catching the Tigers. The Guardians, I think they'll be in the mix. And again, they can make a push for the wild card, but their pitching staff isn't great. And their bullpen's now much weaker, obviously, with Clase not being there. So they can make some games up because of their hitting, but I don't think they'll ultimately be there because their pitching is still weak.
Let's get a quick look there at the AL West, the Houston Astros, the Seattle Mariners, and the Rangers. I love this. I do think each one of these teams can win. Now, granted, Houston has the lead over 3.5 over the Mariners, but I like what the Rangers are doing, love what the Mariners did at the deadline, and here are the Astros just trying to piecemeal a team together before the cavalry comes back, Tom.
Yeah, this is going to be the Wild West of the next, 60 or so days to end the season. It's going to be all these teams vying for it. Rangers made a good move picking up Merrill Kelly, the hitting with the Mariners, and then obviously the injury reinforcements coming for the Astros.
Love it. Look at that. It's the American League. We're going to hit the National League just after the break, and then we start that countdown to Major League Baseball, which we have games in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll make sure we get to those, the Mizorowski update here, and also lineups. You know the place to be, people. It's right here on the SportsGrid Network. We'll be right back.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Over a full season, is he going to be Mike Piazza? No, of course not. But I think he's going to be a guy who can help your team here. My only problem really with Alvarez is this, as Craig and I have talked about so many times, catcher is deep. If you're in a 2-catcher league, by the way, please, for the love of God, I never understood why anybody plays in 2-catcher leagues. But in a 1-catcher league, who's the catcher you're dropping?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
The National League here, and we'll start in the NL East. It's the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. Tom, I'm telling you right now, through every show we do, it has to change. Like, Phillies are in first place, Mets are in first place 1 week, Phillies are in first place, Mets are in first place. No surprise again. It's a half-game lead switched yesterday. Why? Mets won, Phillies lost. They traded back and forth. 63 wins for the Mets, 62 for the Philadelphia Phillies. The Marlins playing some really good baseball, by the way, but still 8 back of the Mets. We don't figure they're going to factor in, but is it going to just be a coin flip the rest of the way between the Mets and the Phillies on this division?
I really do. I'm seeing the odds right now, and at least on the FanDuel Sportsbook, all the other teams are gone. It's just Phillies at -115, Mets at -110. Honestly, if you have a position on either of them, from preseason or earlier in the year, whatever it is, and obviously you have it at plus money, I would look to get a spot on the other team, whatever it might be. If you have Phillies, look to get the Mets at plus money. Yeah. So if the Phillies win tonight and the Mets lose, and then the Phillies win Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is, the Mets lose, and you grab the Mets at plus money or vice versa, just do that. Like, you can have plus money on both sides. And frankly, if you have no bets on this, you could probably still maneuver that over the coming weeks. If the Phillies lose tonight, the Mets win, grab the Phillies at plus money, and then the Mets at plus money on Wednesday or whatever.
It is. They're going to go back and forth the rest of the way. It'll be fun to watch. Certainly a nice little rivalry here. How about the NL Central? We thought it was going to be the Cubs. Month and a half ago, the Cubs just going to lay waste to everybody here. Nobody's going to challenge them. And the Brewers, 66 wins, 44 losses, won their past 2 games here, sit in first place over the Cubs by 2 games. And I always joke about this, Tom. It's like, oh, okay, name me a player on the Brewers. Yelich. Name me another one. Yelich? Like, nobody knows about this team, but yet they had 66 wins. How much of a contender are they really, or are we just waiting time for the Cubs just to pass them up?
I think they are a contender, but right now, as of 30 minutes ago with this Mizorowski news, like, this is the most important stretch of the season. Not only is Mizorowski out on the IL again, it's a tibia issue for him. It's not an arm or shoulder issue. But Jackson Chourio is also on the IL with a hamstring injury.
Sure.
So arguably 2 of their best players are now out. So, like, now rubber is going to meet the road. Brandon Woodruff has been back, for a couple of weeks at this point, a month, whatever it is. Can he now kind of fill the void? Because looking at the Brewers, you would say Peralta, Woodruff, and Mizorowski, that's a great 3-man. Look at the lineup. Okay, everyone's doing their part. We have this star young player. But now we have these 2 options removed from the hitting and the pitching. The rest of the lineup and the pitching staff needs to step up. This next 2-week stretch when Miz and Chourio are out, this is the most important time of the season for the Brewers to hold on to the lead and go, stay within a game of the Cubs.
Like, you are what your record says you are. We're in the month of August. Like, we see it all the time, Tom. Like, hey, man, didn't figure that the Athletics would be really good, but it's in the month of April. Sooner than later, the cream rises to the top. And you take a look at the Brewers, like, oh, I just don't believe in them yet. What, you didn't believe in April, May, June, July, and now in the month of August at this point? That's a really good baseball team. We'll see if they can hold off the Cubs and keep that momentum going on their side. Another team looking to hold off another contender, that's the Los Angeles Dodgers. 5-5 in their last 10 games. Their lead down to 3. The Padres went out and made a bang at the trade deadline, and here they are ready to go. Is there any thought still? Because it's always, we are looking for the Dodgers just to run away with this thing. They're not running away with it right now, but is there a legitimate chance that the Padres can overtake the Dodgers and win this division?
I wouldn't say win the division, and again, like, if they're good enough to win the division, I think they're good enough to win the NLCS. And like, so I would make a larger play on the Padres instead of, what is it for the NL West? Let me just check quickly. Like, plus 700, I think that's fine. If you look at them to win the NLCS, that's 10-1. It's not like some dramatic difference. Yeah. But if they're good enough to win the division, they're good enough to push deep into the playoffs. So I would just take a shot on the longer number, and still they could win the NLCS and not win the division. I'd rather have that 10-1 ticket.
We're set up for an awesome, awesome National League playoff run. Whoever gets in there, if we think it's those top 6 teams that sit there right now, that's a lot of fun to handicap, a lot of fun to break down, and also not a lot of big numbers there. You're going to have teams that are really closely contested all the way through from a wild card right up through to the division winners here. Certainly some fun to watch. But, Tom, you know what time it is right now. It's time we put that handicapping hat on and get down to business. We have an 11:30 start today, guys. That's 9:59, 9:60, and that's the Houston Astros taking on the Boston Red Sox. Valdez, the lefty, the ace of that staff, will be on the mound going up against Lucas Giolito. This line overnight, Tom, was an 8.5. It sits now mostly at 8s across the board. A favorite for Houston overnight, still is a favorite today, anywhere between -126 up to -135 with the outlets that I'm looking at here. So if we're looking at Valdez and Giolito in an early game at Fenway today, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking the Astros come away with the win. Very simply, this is their ace on the mound. They need to stop the losing streak. And granted, the Red Sox are playing super hot right now. There's no doubt about it. But Donnie, what do I always say? Like, I'm always going to buy into teams that are on losing streaks and, bet against teams that are on long winning streaks. It's baseball. It's a highly variable sport. Marcelo Mayer, one of the Red Sox top prospects, he's out of the lineup, and he actually may require season-ending surgery, so their lineup is just a little bit weaker. Giolito's been okay this year. He's certainly had some moments where he's looked terrible. He's had some recent games where he's looked really great, but overall, he's kind of average. Meanwhile, Valdez is an awesome pitcher, and if there's any time for the Astros to salvage this series or salvage any series, you want your ace on the mound. So I expect fewer runs today overall, and Astros come away with the win.
Yeah, yesterday you had a nice little offensive flurry there for the Red Sox. Good for me. I had an alt team total on both of those teams. They both end up hitting yesterday. But also keep in mind, last 2 nights in Boston, a little bit cooler temperatures, 72, 73 degrees with the wind blowing in. Today, it's an 11:35 start. First pitch day, Tom, 80 degrees at 11:30 in the morning with a light wind blowing out. That always helps out. You look at Lucas Giolito, his last 45 days in Major League Baseball. Not all that great. The ERA is very good, though, Tom. 2.79, but that xFIP number, 4.27. If we just do a comparison with Framber Valdez, his ERA last 45 days, 1.64. But his xFIP number, Tom, 2.90. I look at the lineup today for the Astros that we have, and certainly it's out right now, whereas Giolito could struggle. High-weighted on-base percentages for Jeremy Pena, Jose Altuve, Jesus Sanchez, Carlos Correa, Christian Walker, Yanier Diaz. See where we're going here? 8 out of the 9 batters with really good weighted on-base percentages. I'm with you looking at a price point here. Oh, look at that. Houston is favored in this game. I agree, Tom. They should be favored.
They should be favored. I think they come away from the win. Like I said, the lineups are a little bit different. So Pena is in there today. Okay, he left yesterday's game early. Yep. He's leading off for the Astros, so that's at least good to see from them. He's at short, and Correa's at third. So yeah, it's good to see their lineup fully healthy. As for the Red Sox, again, their lineup has been buzzing, not just over this recent series, but really for the past few weeks, and even prior to the deadline, prior to the All-Star break. Obviously, they were on that 10-game win streak before the break. Their lineup has been significantly better, but it really comes down to the pitching, where the recent results from Valdez, as you noted with his ERA and xFIP, like, he's an unbelievable pitcher. We've known this for years. The fly balls continue to be an issue for Giolito, and if it is a little bit warmer, that's where the runs will be scored from the Astros, and Valdez will keep them under control.
Hey, Tom, you want some warm temperatures? Come on now. Let's head down to the state of Florida. 12:10 start today. So right off the bat, we're going to be done this show at noon. 10 minutes later, you're going to get another baseball game, and that's 969, 970. That's the Los Angeles Dodgers going up against the Tampa Bay Rays. Yesterday, the Rays knocked off the Dodgers. Yamamoto on the mound today going up against Boyle. Overnight lines, Tom, we were sitting around a minus 190 price. Those are long gone. Price has been dropping here, 160s, 165s in the marketplace, and a total listed at 8.5. Not a lot of information on Boyle's last 45 days in Major League Baseball. Only 17 and a third innings pitched on, but a decent ERA, slightly higher xFIP number. Yamamoto, you take a look at his ERA, 2.61 over the last 45 days, but a 3.04 xFIP number. Is it a bounce back day today for the Dodgers, in your opinion?
I really think it is, but I don't like this price on that minus 164. Last night, when I saw it open immediately, I actually saw it at minus 200 on the nose. So that's changed dramatically to minus 164 now. With Joe Boyle, so you said over the last 45 days, he has 17 innings pitched. On the entire season, correct, he only has 22.1. So we're not dealing with like a massive sample size in either regard. I will say he's a very confusing pitcher to me at first glance. His BABIP, which is batting average of balls in play, is 154, which is insanely low. Last year for him, his BABIP was up at 311, so he should be due for some negative regression. However, he has a 27% strikeout rate, which I would say is pretty darn strong, but a 10% walk rate. So you can strike hitters out, but you also allow them on base for free, and you're seemingly getting lucky with the BABIP. So I would say he's actually due for some regression with the walks, the runners on base, and the power that the Dodgers have. Dodgers come away with the win, but I don't like their price of minus 164.
Yeah, Tommy, 92 degrees at first pitch today down in Tampa, 8-mile-an-hour wind blowing out. It's perfect conditions. And if we are taking a look at Joe Boyle, we don't have a ton of information, but he's faced 51 lefties on the season. Low ground ball percentage, which isn't very good. Hard hit contact rate, 56%. And then we took a look at that 12.5% barrel rate, Tom. So if you're looking for RBIs and possibly home runs today, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Michael Conforto in that lineup. If we're looking at overall lefties, Ohtani, Freeman, Conforto, Freeland, Edmonds. So you got 5 lefties in that lineup. I think it's a bounce-back day for the Dodgers. But as Tom said, that's a high price to pay for a road team here. We'll find out much more next right here on Pro Baseball Today.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then, just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Over a full season, is he going to be Mike Piazza? No, of course not. But I think he's going to be a guy who can help your team here. My only problem really with Alvarez is this, as Craig and I have talked about so many times, catcher is deep. If you're in a two-catcher league, by the way, please, for the love of God, I never understood why anybody plays in two-catcher leagues. But in a one-catcher league, who's the catcher you're dropping?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm Vecchio, Donnie, Rightside Radio on Pro Baseball Today. We do it each and every Sunday right here on the SportsGrid Network. No better place to be, setting you up for an important day in Major League Baseball. Sunday's always the trickiest day. That's why you got to get the most information you can. Let's start here in Toronto, up in the 6th, 961, 962 on the rotation, a 137 start. And that's Lugo and Bassett. That's the Royals, and that is the Toronto Blue Jays. Opening numbers overnight, minus 135 in that price range. A little bit higher today, Tom. We're seeing as high as a minus 150 in the marketplace, but a total that still sits at 8. Lugo on the mound, Bassett on the mound. What gives today up in Toronto?
You know, I want to say the Blue Jays continue to roll, especially after the ups and downs that they've had. Mm-hmm. I don't think Chris Bassett's particularly a good pitcher, but you know, Seth Lugo, there's something about him that always draws me to him when he's on the mound, especially when we're getting a decent price on him as we are today. A little hint for what we see a little bit later. You know, if this game were at the Royals and I would be laying, you know, minus 140 on Seth Lugo, I'm not sure I would like that. But right now that we're getting plus 120 on Seth Lugo, that's where we want to be going. You know, solid xFIP overall at 4.15. Like, I'm not going to say it's amazing by any stretch. He did just sign that contract extension with the Royals to stay in Kansas City. On the other side, Chris Bassett, I know he's having a good season, Donnie, but I still can't buy into it. Like, his xFIP is 3.62 on the entire season. He's a 22% strikeout rate. The 5.6% walk rate is phenomenal. But the home runs continue to be an issue for him. And there's enough power in the Royals lineup for me to be at least a little bit concerned, considering the underlying metrics from Chris Bassett with fly ball issues and home runs. I just can't buy into him at a minus money price. Give me the Royals today.
Yeah, you know what? You look at these numbers, too, because you look at Bassett, last 45 days, Tom, if we cut it down, 5.27 ERA, which is really high, 3.65 xFIP, which isn't bad. So he's getting a little bit unlucky. But if we do slide it down to Seth Lugo, 48 innings pitched in the last 45 days, a 2.81 ERA, which is serviceable, and not a bad xFIP of 3.99. And you take a look at Toronto is a favorite in this game. If we look at the batters for Kansas City, you do have some plus number guys. Not a lot of strikeouts in that lineup against right-handed pitching for the Kansas City Royals, and some decent weighted on-base percentages, which includes the first 5 guys, India, Witt, Pasquantino, Garcia, and also Perez. But I always like that Toronto lineup. It does present itself well. But the one place I will pick on Seth Lugo just a bit is the left-handed batters. Last 30 days, he's faced 51 of those. 292 ISO, weighted on base percentage, 393. Hard hit percentage, 60% here. Barrel percentage, 15.8. And you look at the first 2 guys in that lineup that we're anticipating. And actually, I don't have the official lineup here for me. I do have it for Kansas City. Luke's, Loperfido, and Addison Barger's lefties. That's probably the looks on where I would go. Dome should be open up there in Toronto. 80-degree temperatures with a light wind blowing out. So do we see runs in this game? Like, if you have to pick a total or a side on this one, I know you have that a little bit later. How about the total?
Yeah, I'm certainly side with the over. The Blue Jays pitching staff has not been good. Like we saw that in the series versus the Orioles. Granted, that was outdoors and it was 100 degrees in Baltimore during that series. So it was a little bit different, but their bullpen struggling a little bit right now. So I would certainly take some runs overall.
All right, let's keep it moving here up in the 6. That's a big game again for Toronto here, trying to stay in first place or at least keep that hand out there to say, no, not so fast, Red Sox and New York Yankees. Let's head to Washington because the big news we had at the beginning of this broadcast was the Milwaukee Brewers going to be a heavy favorite today. Still are a favorite as I'm looking right now, but Mizorowski, who was doing the mound, no longer going to be on the mound. That's going to be Henderson going up against Brad Lord. 951, 952 on the rotation, a 135 start, 8.5s overnight. They've increased a little bit to 9s because, again, Mizorowski's not going to start in this game. The 175s, the 180s overnight, which was as high as 190s, those are long gone right now, Tom. I'm seeing 146s, 155s, 150s or so in the marketplace right now. So Milwaukee, without the young dominant stud on the mound, looking to go more of maybe a bullpen game today? What do you think?
So I'm seeing that Logan Henderson should be starting today. That's not fully confirmed, but I'm seeing that it should be Logan Henderson. This is his first year in the majors. He has 21 inning sample size. Donnie, 21 innings we know is not a lot. He has a 1.71 ERA and a 2.98 xFIP. He comes in with a 35% strikeout rate. However, he has a 55% fly ball rate. So, again, 21 innings, not a big sample size overall in any capacity for any pitcher at any point. But an incredibly high strikeout rate, but he does struggle with fly balls and home runs, but still a sub-3 xFIP, really over any stretch, is very, very good. Brad Lord on the other side, he is expected to start for the Nationals. We know that. Yeah. Not a big strikeout pitcher, doesn't struggle with home runs. And Donnie, he has a 3.75 xFIP in 74 innings. Yes. So the fact that the moved up to 9, I'm actually now inclined to take the under in this game. If we're not going to be seeing, we actually have two better pitchers than the name recognition suggests, and I actually do like the under in this.
No, you actually hit the head on Brad Lord, too, because most people are like, oh, Washington throwing Brad Lord. It's probably just a tomato can. They don't want to bring up one of the really good pitchers, from like the minor leagues. But you look at him. I have him 6th on my card today with xFIP over the past 45 days, Tom, 3.41, ERA 2.63. That's over 24 innings pitched. But if we do a little bit more of a deeper dive and you say, all right, what are we getting out of Henderson? He's got 15 starts in minor league baseball. He's got a 3.59 ERA, which isn't too bad. But if you look at his past couple starts, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. We have, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. Not really a shutdown guy, but it's always tough to handicap, Tom, right? It's like, well, this team should hit, this team shouldn't. Major League Baseball players, like if you have a veteran guy, it's like, yeah, I've seen this guy 50 to 60 times, know exactly what he throws. Sometimes it's tricky to not understand what these guys throw for an inning or two, or should I say a round or two through the order. And then by the time you see that anyway, Tom, they're out of the game and into the bullpen. We're just matchup versus matchup at this point. Always tricky to say, I have Mizorowski. I know he's probably giving me 5 innings today. Now we don't know, so it's sort of a little bit up in the air at this point. But the one thing we do know, Tom, is that price point has been lowered from overnight when we thought Mizorowski was going to get that start today.
Right, and this is a spot that we could realistically see moving throughout the last 2 months of the season when teams that are out of it calling up young pitchers to get the starts. So there's multiple ways to play. You could certainly just take first 5 and trust, the Brewers are the better team. You just want to take the first 5 with them. You don't want to extend it to the bullpen, or vice versa. You want to take the plus money with the Nats and then buy back in live with the Brewers because they are the better team. When it's all said and done, you do it a number of different ways.
And also understand this. It's probably not a case where Mizorowski showed up at the ballpark and like, okay, we got to put you on the IL. They probably had this information 24 to 36 hours ago, just didn't share it out. So it's not as if you're saying, hey, I just need anybody to pitch. Anybody want to come out of the bullpen? All right, you're the starter today. Let's see what happens today in Washington. But that dog price that I was looking at earlier today just got a little bit better for me. And we'll see if those Nationals can certainly hang on. The next game we are going to talk about is, again, a pitcher with not a lot of innings here in Major League Baseball. And that's going to be a game between the New York Mets and also the San Francisco Giants. So a lot of runs yesterday up there in Citi Field. Do we see that same amount of runs today as it sort of boils down to it? But we're handicapping every single game. We'll get through everyone on the card today. It's Tom Vecchio. It's Donnie Rightside. It's a SportsGrid Network Series X on Channel 159. Mets on deck next. First place next.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then, just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Over a full season, is he going to be Mike Piazza? No, of course not. But I think he's going to be a guy who can help your team here. My only problem really with Alvarez is this, as Craig and I have talked about so many times, catcher is deep. If you're in a two-catcher league, by the way, please, for the love of God, I never understood why anybody plays in two-catcher leagues. But in a one-catcher league, who's the catcher you're dropping?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Teasing a game before the break, Tom. It's a very pro move here in the industry, and that's exactly what we did. It's the San Francisco Giants and the New York Mets here from Citi Field today. Whisenhunt, the left-handed pitcher, will be on the mound today going up against Frankie Montas. His last 45 days in Major League Baseball, only 5 innings pitched here for Carson Whisenhunt going up against Montas. As we stated, a 140 start today. Mets are a heavy favorite. There's no surprise. Overnight, those lines, 160 to 165, they still sit there right now, depending on where you're shopping at. 8.5s overnight. We do see some 8s in the marketplace, but primarily an 8.5 total. Does it look too easy to take the New York Mets today? Like they should just walk over Mr. Carson Whisenhunt?
I think it might be the case. And this is one of the situations where we'll probably get into a lot down the stretch of the season where, you know, I don't trust Montas as a pitcher. That's what it really comes down to. I think that the Mets are by far the better team. Everyone will agree with that. I just don't like the minus 164 price on the Mets. It's really that simple. I think they win. I don't like the price. You know, frankly, waiting for an in-game number would be the best spot to go. Montas this season, yeah, he's due for a little bit of positive regression, a 5.46 ERA overall in the year and 29.2 innings pitched. He has a 4.18 xFIP, so he should be a little bit better. The strikeouts really aren't there. The home runs are a little bit an issue for him. So I like the Mets. I don't trust Whisenhunt on the other side, but giving the Mets in-game closer, even money, minus 125-ish, I think that's the best spot to go, really.
There's really worse way to get beat, though. Like, I look at this game, too, and I say the Mets, against any left-handed pitcher over the past 30 days, they got really good numbers. Like Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, Starling Marte, Jeff McNeil, Vientos, Mullins, and Alvarez all have really good stuff. You take a look at Whisenhunt, only 1 start in Major League Baseball. You go back to his minor league details, a 4.42 ERA in the minors at AAA. Last start was 3 2/3 innings pitched. The one before that was 5. So not really a long pitcher at this point. Do you? Because I tend to just stay away from these, and then I get angry at myself. Like, of course, Whisenhunt went 3 2/3. They gave up 3 earned runs, and the Mets easily hit their team total of 4.5 on the day. But I tend to find myself now saying, you know what? Just hold those horses, because yes, it might win, but there's nothing worse than Whisenhunt's 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run. You're like, I knew that was going to happen. But the Mets lineup does look good against left-handed pitching over the past month.
Yeah, so in this circumstance, it's like it really comes down to what one of those alt totals would be. So I would play, like I said, I don't like the minus 164. I would want something closer to even money. But if you want to have a pregame bet, I would say a Mets alt team total, and it has to be at plus money, right? I would either plus money or stay away. That's the situation, or that's this type of situation. That's how to approach it. Give me plus money at plus 130 for an alt team total, or completely stay away.
I got to tell you, this next game do have my eyes on a little bit here. 140 start. That is 963, 964 on the rotation. It's Minnesota with Jose Urania. Probably know him more of a Marlins background. Not a very good pitcher against Cantillo today. The left-hander going for the Guardians. Overnight lines, Tom, 160s or so. They're higher now. I'm seeing in the marketplace as high as a minus 172 and totals listed at 8.5. Decent weather conditions. I believe the wind is blowing in a little bit in Cleveland, but Urania is on the mound with a dead ball club in Minnesota. So let's take this two-pronged attack here, Tom. Number one, this game itself, but also a team that raised the white flag only a couple days ago. How do we handicap those type of situations?
So for a team like the Twins, their lineup is not good, and it's not going to be good today. It wasn't good yesterday. It's not going to be good going forward. Team total unders, easy way to approach things for the Twins. So you're any team that sells off a bunch of assets. That's when to go bad. As for today's game, Jose Urania is terrible. He's been a bad pitcher for many, many years. This is his third team this year. Last year was just with Texas. In 2023, he was on two different teams. In 2022, he was on two different teams. He has bounced around because he's not good. Now, it's easy to say that Joey Cantillo on the other side for the Guardians is an unproven pitcher, and also that the Guardians are dealing with a depleted bullpen because Emmanuel Clase is suspended. So when we see a 28.8% strikeout rate from Cantillo, that's awesome, but it's coupled with a 12.8% walk rate and 1.26 home runs per nine. So I really like the Guardians to come away with the win, but again, it comes down to price sensitivity. Do we like the price that we're getting on the Guardians? I like some of their player props today, and frankly, again, a live in-game number for the Guardians or an all-team total with plus money. That's the way to approach it.
Yeah, I am too, because I'm trying to figure out a way which is the best way to take the Cleveland Guardians. Because as you said it as well, like if you're looking on the money line, there's nothing worse than a depleted bullpen where your closers used to be there who's not there anymore. Well, then you look at Minnesota as well. Duran is over in Philadelphia now, so that's not going to be there. We don't love their lineup all that much. How much pop do they have? And Jose Urania is going to be on the mound. You say to yourself, like, now, hold on. Like, what am I getting out of him? Like, you look at the minor leagues, like, he says 7 games started, but he's starting and going like 2 and 3 innings per start in the minors. So that means he's a bad pitcher that's going to give you 3 innings, and then you have to piecemeal 6 full bullpen innings to get you without your closer at this point. And also, a sign of the times in Minnesota, they're not trying to win anymore. No pop in the lineup, no pitchers there, have no idea how you back them. And don't look now. The Cleveland Guardians here, Tom, playing some good baseball as of late. Didn't really do anything at the deadline as opposed to we're going to suspend a couple guys out of the bullpen. But that doesn't mean you can't take Quan, Jose Ramirez, Kyle Manzardo, all with really good statistics against right-handed pitching here. It's the way we do it, people. Hour number 2 is next right here on Pro Baseball Today.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Over a full season, is he going to be Mike Piazza? No, of course not. But I think he's going to be a guy who can help your team here. My only problem really with Alvarez is this, as Craig and I have talked about so many times, catcher is deep. If you're in a 2-catcher league, by the way, please, for the love of God, I never understood why anybody plays in 2-catcher leagues. But in a 1-catcher league, who's the catcher you're dropping?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.